Negotiating numeracy.
Graphing using Google Sheets. While drawing graphs by hand is an important skill to be able to do in an exam, there are many times when we might need to use spreadsheets to create our graphs digitally. For example, a scientific report with a large dataset, or in mathematics to produce an equation to explain relational trends. Perhaps it is just a simpler way to submit our work electronically to our teacher. Whatever the reason, it is important we know how to manipulate graphs in spreadsheets to ensure what we produce has all the required features. In this video, we will use Google Sheets, as this is freely available to everyone, but Excel and Numbers will work in a similar fashion. The first step is to enter our data into our spreadsheet. To set up our data sheet, we want the first column to be our independent variable, or X value, and our second column to be our dependent variable, or Y value. Give these columns an appropriate heading, including units, and then fill in the data below. Now select the data to be graphed and click Insert Chart. This will produce a graph of our data, but it is important to now check it is displaying this data in the correct format and with all the required graph features. We do this under Setup. First, ensure the graph is a scatter plot by ensuring that this is selected under Chart Type. If we wanted to make a column graph or line graph instead, this is where we would select it. Next, check that the X and Y axis have the correct data associated with them. That is, the independent variable is on the X and the dependent variable is on the Y axis. This will produce a graph that has the key features, but let's add a few more features to ensure our graph clearly shows what we want it to. Now select Customize. The first tab lets us adjust the chart style. We can change our background color, text fonts, and border colors. These features might be useful when creating an infographic or a poster. The next tab is Chart and Axis Title. Here we can ensure we have a meaningful title for our graph, as well as edit our X and Y axis title if needed, though these should already be correct if we gave our columns the right headings. We can also adjust fonts and colors. The next tab is the Series tab. If we had two measures we were comparing, we would have two dependent variable columns and thus two series. Here we can adjust the color, size and shape of the data points, as well as indicate if the measure needs to be on the left or right axis if using multiple dependent variables. When you have two data series, depending on the type of data, it may be appropriate to use a Pareto chart or double bar graph. This Series tab is also where you can add error bars to indicate the certainty of our data. This can either be a whole number, percentage, or standard deviation. We can also add data labels to our points if needed, although this generally is not needed and just clutters a graph. And finally, and most importantly, we can add a trend line or line of best fit. We can adjust the color and size of this line, and we can also change from a straight line to a variety of other preset lines such as exponential, polynomial, or logarithmic. If we want to determine the equation of our line, we can add the equation as a label and can add the R² value to indicate how well this line represents the data. The Legend tab allows some more customization of colors and text. The Horizontal Axis tab also allows more color and text customization, but also allows us to adjust the min and max values, adjust the scale factor, and adjust the angle of the axis values. The same can be done for the Y-axis using the Vertical Axis tab. Finally, the Grid Lines tab can be used to adjust how many grid lines appear on the graph in both the vertical and horizontal direction, as well as adjusting their color. Minor grid lines can also be added. Once the graph is created, this can be copied and pasted into an assignment, presentation, or other digital document. Remember, whether a line graph is drawn by hand or created digitally, it must have clearly labeled axes with units, an appropriate scale on the X and the Y axes, a meaningful and informative title or a figure caption, clearly plotted data points, and an appropriate trend line or line of best fit.